zu Alexandre auf Englisch oder auf Französisch übersetzen und dann eine Antwort Bescheid geben. Alexander, just for you to know, I just presented you in German and told them that you will do like a presentation in English, and that if they have any questions, they can ask us in English or in German, and we will be like translating.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Isaac. I need to apologize to everybody. I am sorry I don't speak German. I wish I would, and but I don't speak German, so we can do in English if that's okay, if you allow me. And I promise we will speak good rum. This is going to be the common language today.
Yes, that's the most important.
So if you guys wanted me to jump in, I understand you have the bottles. I see some of you guys having all your little samples. I got the bottles here. I'm going to be drinking with you as well. You know, I got all the different single casks. And so we're going to be sharing together. And don't hesitate. You can interrupt me whenever you want. It's all good. You know, and so we're going to share these. These are the baby of myself and the team. Some here are rums from Barbados that you met. Don. Don is the master distiller at West Indies Rum Distillery. Maybe Isaac explained, and if he didn't, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. And so Don is a very talented master distiller. Has been making beautiful rum at West Indies Rum Distillery for 22 years. So it's wonderful. We spent quite a lot of time, Don and I, either working together or either on the phone. So I'm glad, Don, that you're going to be joining this, and we'll be tasting some of your rums, one of your rum here tonight, that actually was worked in a special cask of Malbec, which is a special grape variety. So we'll get to taste that. What I wanted to say today, something very specific, is we are today going back to a golden age of rum. Because why is that? Well, I don't know if everybody knows, but 99.9% of rum is nowadays is aged in what kind of barrels? In bourbon barrels, right? 99.9% of rum that you drink and you buy on a shelf is aged in a bourbon barrel. Now, this used not to be the case. Long time ago, before the repeal of the prohibition, you know, American whiskey was not so prevalent, and you didn't have American whiskey throughout the world. So what was used was different type of barrels, because remember, the Caribbeans was importing quite a lot of wine. The Caribbeans were the sugar islands, and you had all these guys that were importing different wines, and they would use these barrels. Remember, people didn't, and you don't have that anymore. And what I did with the single cask collection, I wanted to just show you and show ourselves really what you can do with a beautiful other barrels than just bourbon barrels. So today I'm very excited because we're going to be tasting some very hard barrels to use wine, like a beer barrel. A beer barrel is not very easy, but you know, we use barrels that are very fresh. One of the secrets of using a barrel is to make sure that if it contains wine or beer before, the barrel has to be very fresh. So the beer is not oxidized, it's not bad, or, you know, the wine has not oxidized. Remember, we're right next to the wine region. Some of you may know a gentleman called Mathieu Gouze working with us. Why I'm talking about him, his father is a star winemaker, and he's retired now, but he sometimes worked with Grand Chateau. And for example, he called me. I'm going to give you some news. I'm not supposed to tell you, maybe by the marketing department, but you know, he called me. I do that all the time, so I get in trouble, even though, you know, and so, but he called me, you know, in October and says, he was working at Chateau Latour in Pauillac, and he says, you know, we're going to empty some barrels. Are you interested? It's next week. So we go there, we get the barrels, and on that same day, the rum was in there. So I'm going to show you some of these expressions along these lines. The first one we're going to taste was very difficult job, because it's been to my knowledge, a very long time since rum has used beer barrels. And if some of you know other companies that have used beer barrels, I'd love to hear about your experience, because I was looking at recent expression about that and I couldn't find any. So we experienced by ourselves. So if you want to pour, if you didn't do that already, if you want to pour a glass of the Trinidad 2009, this is this one of the 2009. You know, this one has been going and aged exactly. I see the picture. Thank you. You guys are good. Very organized, right? That's wonderful. I like that. That's impressive. So that's the rum. And this one is a Trinidad from 2009. It's distilled there. Now, I'm going to give you a little secret of Trinidad distillers, something that, you know, when you see the equipment, and I think Don will agree, and you taste that Trinidad distillers they have quite big columns. They have one that used this to distill Bacardi there. Usually Bacardi for the CARICOM used to be distilled in Trinidad, right, with the big column, Don. And then you have a column that's still big, and they don't really use that. And I was really wondering when I tasted their rum, like, how can you achieve something that's got nice spice, nice body? And the secret of the master distiller there at the time, he told me that he was getting draws. Yes. And Don, you know what we're talking about, right? Drawing from different plates, some elements of taste, of weight. They actually call that esters. It's not quite esters, but, you know, elements of flavor that they get from the column. And that's what I love about Trinidad. And I will give you a little thing is at one point when I tasted that, I said, when we buy rum from Trinidad, I would love that they put a little extra on it, because as you know, at Plantation, as the same West Indies rum distillery, you know, now West Indies rum distillery is the home of Plantation. And at Plantation, we like rum that has flavor, intensity, you know, that rum that tastes like rum. So we're going to pour some of this. That's the typical Trinidad that we like. This one is, again, aged, distilled in 2009. And if you're ever interested with it, with our brands, we always put all the information on the back or on the front label. And so you will have all the information I'm giving you fully available. It's aged in Trinidad for 10 years. Then it's aged 1 year in a cognac barrel in cognac, and then 11 months in a Duvel beer from Belgium. So I'm sorry, guys. I know the beer in Germany is delicious. I need to learn about German beer. I mean, you guys need to teach me. And by the way, before the end of the tasting, if you give me the brands of the beer you think would work the best with, and you know the people with rum, I would love the challenge to work also with German beer. We'd like to, of course, we'd have to ship the barrels very fast to us. So if you want to smell that one, this one for the super geeks, volatile substances, about 150 grams. You know, this is no dosage on that one. And I've used a Duvel, you know, non-pasteurized beer. What I like of the Duvel has got some little citrus notes that I thought be very interesting, you know, for this rum here. I forgot to tell you also, this rum is bottled at 45% alcohol. So you may wonder, how do we choose the level of bottling alcohol? With Plantation, there's never two bottling with the same, because, you know, the more it's higher in alcohol, the more you concentrate elements of flavors. Otherwise, you open it up. So it's a matter of finding the right balance. So if you want to have a little sip, and I would love to hear what you taste and what you nose, and I'll share with you what I taste and nose when we experience that rum.
Alexandre, just to be sure, Duvel beer, it's a blonde beer from Belgium, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And it's a medium body. It's not a heavy stout. And what I like of it, I liked the elegance of it. You know, I like the elegance of it. Since it's not pasteurized at all, we had to ship the barrels right away, and we didn't want a pasteurized beer. We wanted a real beer, and then of course put the rum right away in it. And again, look, I grew up in the vineyards of France, so I didn't drink a lot of beer as a kid. I must confess. So I'm in a learning curve about beer, and you guys are probably smiling, but I am a student of beer. And again, you know, I want you to tell me what you think about this, because in that case, I was not so much thinking as a beer drinker as I was thinking about a rum producer trying to find the perfect balance for our rum. And I just want to give you a little secret about the way I work with this. and I know Don and I agree on this, we are not using a barrel to give another taste. We are using a barrel usually to really bring forward the very elements of that rum. All right. So to me, you know, I get a bit green apple. I get some pear, still a little bit of vanilla from the original barrel. I get the slight.
Alexandre, I just wanted to add into what you said with the distillation technique. It must be done with great care when you're reintroducing side streams from the process into the final blend, because it can easily go wrong. So I think the guys in Trinidad over time have demonstrated they are quite skilled at this. They know they have the equipment to do it. So rather than just make a bland, very neutral spirit, they have found a way, a very consistent way to bring back elements of ester or fusels into the rum, so that it balances well then after aging.
So, you know, I love to hear, you know, Don is always being very modest, praising, you know, another distillery, but Don knows exactly what he talks about, right, Don? We've been talking.
Yeah, I mean, I can say we do it as well quite successfully at West Indies Rum, but I know we were speaking about Trinidad for the moment. So I'm sure we'll have a turn to speak about Barbados.
Exactly. So, and what's interesting, we'll talk about that. And as we speak, it's kind of a secret, but we are changing one of the columns. In the thing that Don and the team and myself insisted on is having different draws. So you can, you know, you can draw from different plates to be able to get these elements. And the secret of a beautiful distiller is also to know exactly what you're doing with this. So
yeah, well, if allowed, when we come to that moment, I can show a picture on my phone of where we are with that installation.
Wonderful. Well, and thank you, Don. Say, if you don't speak to Angelique and you do that, you and I will be in great trouble, you know.
I'm not going to see her soon, so maybe you are the one in trouble. And
exactly. Hey, I think she's coming to Berlin, so I think.
Oh no, I didn't know this.
So I don't know. Do you guys any questions about this rum? Any points? Do you see what we're trying to do with these citrus notes, some of the fresh pear notes? I think there is some nice fruit elements, you know, that were in the rum that are brought forward, you know, into the into that. I see Volker liking it. Thank you, Volker. But I just want to make sure you got what we're trying to do. I like the little appliness. I thought it was very elegant. And I have to confess something. The first time I used beer barrel was experimental, was a few years ago, and I screwed up the whole barrel. So, you know, I was very nervous to do it again. So we were very careful. And when we say 11 months, it was 11 months because we tasted this rum at the end every single day until you find that perfect spot. So someone was saying, you smell what? Fire cone? What is this? I'm sorry, can you educate me? I was just because I thought it was interesting.
I think you wrote it in German just behind.
It's Tannenzapfen. I don't know another translation. Maybe somebody can translate it into French.
Well, pine cone.
Pine cone, yeah. You know what? I would agree with a slight raisiny notes, like a raisin. Slight notes, really in the background. I could see what you're talking about.
I agree with the raisins, but I have no reference for pine cone, so I.
We'll find you one.
Pine cones on Barbados?
They don't smell like what I'm smelling there.
You guys don't have Christmas trees or something?
Yes, very artificial ones.
Artificial, yes. 100% plastic.
Yeah, they don't smell like pine cone. Yeah, no, it's much better with a palm tree. You know, we celebrate Christmas at the distillery right on the beach. So
yeah,
if you guys interested, something we can do.
That's also very cool.
So thank you guys. If you agree, we can move to the next one. Yes. You know, the next one, and we can always go back if you have comments. Obviously, we're going to.
Alexandre, you told us about a little secret. So it means next year we'll have a release with the Chateau Latour.
Yes, next week. So again, you cannot say this to Angelique that
Yeah. I hope she's not watching right now.
Otherwise, you say it's Don who said it,
Okay.
She can come to Barbados to fight it.
Exactly. Because Angelique is so organized, and we are, Don and I, we're about creating beautiful rums, and we love to share. So I'm so excited to tell you all of this, because it's about creating beautiful, beautiful rums. And so now we're going to go to the second one. The second one is Guatemala. So this is from the, Botran distillery, obviously. And this is a Moscatel cask. Moscatel is, from Portugal. It's kind of a wine, and I thought really interesting. Now it's a total different approach here, really different, and it's bottled at 48% alcohol. To me, what I loved with this is some of the notes of the Moscatel that brought in like apricots and, cooked pear and things like this. So it was really interesting. And I thought that would work very well with the Guatemala rum. So for this one, this is, aged there. This is exo grade. So we were, probably around 6 years, first. We didn't have full control of this. So when we are not 100% sure, we are not disclosing. We only tell you with the transparency what we know for sure. We know for sure that after these 6 years, when we tasted it, we think about 6 years. I mean, we were told much older, to tell you the truth, but I think this is 6 years. This is 1 year in a Ferrand barrel, and then 11 months again in a Moscatel barrel. Surprisingly, this is about the same level of esters, 148. I'm sorry, volatile substances, grams. So this is like a medium body rum. I just want everybody to know some of the super light rums, the one that Don and I don't like very much. They can be as low as 20 grams of volatile substances, the elements of taste into the rum. So this is like a medium body. This is bottled at, like I said, 48% alcohol.
Also ich finde den
Now,
lecker.
Moscatel is much easier to work
Also
in
der
beer.
Schoko.
Beer, if you do it wrong, then it throws everything out of whack. Here, I don't know if you get this. I get the apricot, but not fresh apricot. I get like dried apricot on the back of the palate. I get a slight citrus, but not lemon, more like orange peel.
Flasche Nummer 2 sollte.
Very floral. I get a little bit of muscat grapes and honey notes. So that's what I thought was really exciting. I thought that'd be a good match. Again, the barrel with the rum, and they would work very well.
And I just wanted to make a small precision. So for all the single cask here, we always have 3 aging, bourbon cask, cognac cask, and then we are talking here about finish. Just to be sure everyone knows.
And why we still insist on the Ferrand cask is because, we think it's real nice to work with European or French oak, because, American oak brings in a lot of vanillin and a lot of whiskey lactone, like coconuts, and that's great, no problem with this. But again, to have like some of the structuring note of French oak or European oaks is a wonderful thing. So usually we go through that point every time, and and that's kind of a signature, and that gives a bit, where you have the American oak in the time of aging would bring the flesh, the French oak would give the bone structure. And we feel that flesh and bone structure work well together. Sometimes we have big arguments in cognac. I'm a master blender here in cognac, and there's big debates which one is the best, American oak or French oak. And guess what? The French master blenders prefer. They usually say, of course, French oak is that much superior. And I'm the one to always say it depends what you want to do. If you really want to bring in some elements of almost a sweet feel from the vanilla and the whiskey lactone, like the coconuts and stuff, American oak is great, but I feel that too much is too much. I have a question from Bastien. The dosage on this one is 15 grams. And, here where we talk, the dosage, and of course it's on the bottle, but I'm telling you here, no problem, Bastien. And again, it's like the proof, with the dosage, when you feel is going to open up the flavor. And we use dosage in a very, very special way. This is a technique that we call dosage in cognac, but that's called browning in the Caribbean, where it's usually local sugars that are not, fully caramelized. We don't like too much to use. Don and I know that very well. Remember, Don, when like the fully caramelized industrial stuff, Don and I know doesn't work, right, Don?
Yeah. To be honest, like even at home for me, if I'm not even speaking rum, just cooking. I cook sometimes, not all the time. But it is a traditional way for Barbadians to color their foods and I won't say the drinks, but mainly the foods, where we take sugar and melt it, heat it, it starts to caramelize, but it's not burnt. And then that gives the food a wonderful flavor. If you dip your finger in that E150A, I think you would spit it out right afterward. It is normally bitter. It does add only color, but it in the wrong proportions, it can actually influence the taste as well in a negative way. So browning is a very traditional Barbadian way of dealing with food. They obviously wouldn't have had caramel to begin with, but we always had sugar. So we found a way to make good use of the sugar. And yes, in rum, in the right quantities, not really overpowering the rum, but it can be a taste element that encourages the rest of the body to be explored a bit more with the mouthfeel.
Thank you, Don. And that's something that Don and I and the team were great advocates. We're kind of fighting the 150A, industrial that will give you bitterness, but work with the local sugars. When we use it, it's all cane based to do that. And in that case, I don't know if you feel, but once it's on your palate, the taste remains, like you've got a slow delivery of taste elements. So that's the idea about this one. I thought that was a very pleasant one. I thought it needed the extra boost at 48%. I don't know if you agree, but I thought, it gives the right amount of flavor delivery to be at 48% alcohol. I thought that the lower proof, it would have been, not as beautiful and not showing so well. If you guys have any questions, otherwise we can go to the multi-island and, the XO multi-island, which is, I'm going to tell you the story about the multi-island. The multi-island is typical with every master blender. You got, any questions, guys, on the
Alexandre, I just wanted to ask you something, because so in cognac, when we talk about XO, it's always minimum 10 years.
Alors,
So
in French law, XO is a minimum 6 years, and some regions, such as cognac, have decided to up it to 10 years.
Exactly.
The XO, for example, XO for France. So in the French islands, for French rum, XO is a minimum of 6 years, or your Calvados is a minimum of 6 years. But cognac was a minimum of 6 years. But about 5 years ago, we decided to bring that. You can never go lower than the government requirement, but you can go higher as a region. So you couldn't do an XO in France or French territory at 5 years. That's illegal. But if you choose to do 7, 8, or 9 years and so on, it's possible. Then it's a regional decision. And
exactly. And my question was if it's the same with Guatemala?
Guatemala doesn't have the same request for XO. I don't know any other country that has any requests for XO age minimum. Maybe they are, but I am not aware. The XO has been, XO terminology originally was invented in cognac, meaning extra old. And when it was invented, it was 6 years. Then, as I say, was up to 10 for cognac specifically. But the other countries don't have requirements of minimum age for XO. This is a French requirement. So you can make, a Spanish brandy and call it XO and be at 5 years. That would be legal by European standard, but that wouldn't be legal by French standard.
Okay,
so in our case, we make sure, here in this one, we felt it was a 6-year-old, but we aged it further and stuff. And so we feel it does qualify at XO, but as Guatemala, it's a great question, by the way, by law, it could be XO at a younger age. Because what happens, it's true not only for rum, it's true for brandy, it's true for whiskey. If you drink whiskey in India, the requirements for whiskey in India are very different than whiskey in Taiwan or Thailand or Scotland or Ireland. And it's the same, obviously, for rum, because rum, like whiskey, is a product from many different countries. So I know it sounds like a headache, But you know, what comes with all that freedom comes the beauty of rum and that diversity and the fact that you have to study rum all your life. It's like wine, right? There's no one rule about wine. I grew up in the wine country, and if somebody tried to make the same rule for wine for all over the world, my grandfather would roll in his tomb, right? And it's the same way. It's the same way for because that is the same way with the beautiful cultures of rum. You know, with all these different diversity. But what it takes is learning and learning and learning and tasting, and you know, you can do that with a lifetime about rum. All right.
So Alexandre, question for you from Don. And I'm a regular guy asking you this. So how do you make the choice for this one for the islands to bring together? Or even if you can educate us on to which islands.
The multi-island, I'm going to tell you the story of that one, Don. You know, as a master blender, when you do all these single cask and different blends and stuff, you have what guy we call among ourselves master blenders, we call it my own stuff. You know, you see it sometimes, some labels on the shelves is you see it on it, you know, my own stuff. What happens is you keep all these, you know, when you blend and you have like half a barrel left of this, and they're beautiful stuff that you set aside and you start blending for future use. You know, I have a wonderful master blender in Mexico, Carlos Camarena, who makes Ocho Tequila. He calls it my own stuff with an S, but he calls it my own shit. You know, he always like puts it aside and you'll see it. So he's got a little bottling called like this. And so you keep all your own stuff like this. And I've been doing this for so many years with rum, right? Soon to 25 years. And so I have all these different elements, in that case, 15 different islands, Don. And, you know, so we say, okay, are we going to put the shopping list on this? And I said, I got these beautiful rums. Some in there are super old. I mean, some are like 15, 16, 17 years, and some are like 4 or 5 years old. And I thought, you know, that'd be wonderful to be able to just release this, you know, as a very integrated brand, you know. And because what happens when, especially with rums, you know, when you play and you use Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, Fiji, different things, then you end up, you know, having so many sorts of taste. If you blend it together, you reach a level of complexity that's very, very, very dumbfounding. And so that's what I did with this one. That's like, I could have called it my own stuff, you know, but that's, you know, most master blenders would have understood, you know, that's like the stuff that you have and all the babies that you keep and you make kind of a master blend. And that's why we did that here on this one. It was kind of costly. It's hard to put a price point, Don. You know, you remember how we price the rums and stuff, because some of them are quite old there, but that's what you do. Usually we drink this ourselves, you know, that's why we call it my own stuff. But I just thought would be fun to make a little release on this. So
well, if this is a blend from different islands, why is there on the bottom of the label written product from the Fiji Islands?
That's a great question, because by French law, when you put a bottling, you need to make a made in something. You need to choose one. You know, like a French government, you cannot say made in 15 islands and put a shopping list. That's a great question. Thank you. So what you do, you choose the dominant one, you know, and that's by law. You say, okay, what's the dominant one? So that's a great question, by the way. And thank you for asking it. So that's the dominant element in that case. And you'll see it, you know, like when we do original dark or certain elements, you always see, usually by law, you're constrained to put, you know, the dominant in the blend, because they say that's, we need by law, it's a customs regulation for some countries.
Thank you.
All right, so that's, but you probably can see that dominant element, you know, it's there. It's an old Fiji that's there. And I thought that'd be interested, you know, interesting as an element. So this one, again, medium body, slightly heavier, a bit heavier on the esters, 51 grams, 157 of volatile substances. Again, medium to going higher body. We start to consider a heavier rum at 200 grams. I don't know if you know, but by law, a lot of spirits have a minimum elements of taste, you know, that are measured by what we call the volatile substances. American whiskey is a minimum 120, fruit eau de vie in Europe, usually a minimum of 150 or 200 different government, cognac 200 and so on and so forth. Rum in the US, just a minimum of 8 grams per hectoliter. The dosage here is 20 grams. I felt that it was very tight, very intense. So it just would take you a long way. And the ABV, because there's so many elements of taste there, is 43.7%. So what I liked in this, and why I used Pinot de Charente. Pinot de Charente is just an easy barrel for rum makers. I could do every rum in Pinot de Charente. It's like, Pedro Jimenez sherry. These are, the one with a beer barrel, it's easy to screw up. If you do a Pinot de Charente, I think it worked very well. I used a white Pinot de Charente, which is, not as sweet as a red Pinot de Charente. And to me, what I liked about this is the elements of pastry, the flambéed bananas, a bit about truffles, pineapple. So I thought that's really something that I thought was exciting and brought forward by the wine aspect of the Pinot de Charente. And I don't know, on the palate, what I got when I made this one, and I get like the Pinot note, so, a little bit of oxidized wine, and also for some reason, some crazy reasons, I got some peach notes. So that's what I thought was interesting with this one.
It's a very nice one. Alexandre, you said, so it's mostly coming from Fiji, and what are the other islands?
In this, you have 15 different islands.
Oh, you have 15 different, okay.
So,
okay.
But you got a little bit of Jamaica, you got some Barbados, and, I'm sure, don't get, some of that beautiful, elegant style from that. And, you got some Trinidad, I even have a little bit of Réunion Island, for the grassiness. So this is really my own stuff kind of thing,
Okay.
Right. So that's the multi-island. I cannot do this every year because, once you do it, usually, like I said, this is something we like to drink. Next time you go to Mexico, you ask Carlos Camarena about his own stuff. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So if you guys want to go ahead, now we're going to jump to the Panama, 14 years. And this one, I worked with a very young, I'm 55 years old. So everybody who's younger than 50, I think they're young, So a young distiller, that I know for many, many years. I met him when distilling was a dream of his. And he turned out to be a very good and talented distiller. It's New York Distilling Company in Brooklyn. And he makes a beautiful rye whiskey, which he calls ragtime rye. As you know, the rye has nice spicy notes. I love rye whiskey, by the way. I thought, instead of having the bourbon barrel overpowering with this mellow, middle of the road notes, I thought it'd be interesting to have the spice forward red apple notes from a good rye. So, we're going to taste this. This is bottled at 51%. Why? I just wanted to just get the spice all the way through, So this is the, rye barrel. It is actually 1 year in the rye barrel. That's the, again, a medium body here. The dosage is 12 grams. This is Panama. So Panama, again, I love the Panama, elements here. And 14 years altogether. 11 in Panama, 2 years in France in a Ferron barrel, and 1 year in the New York distilling barrel. This is what we call a barrel swap. A barrel swap is, I love to choose the barrels myself. So barrel swaps is actually, this distillery works with our own barrels as well. It's the same as Duvel beer. They love the Plantation barrels. So they make, last year they made, Don, you got to taste it, because it was totally sold out in 1 week, but they make a beer aged in a Barbados barrel. And this year they did the same beer aged in Jamaican barrel. I was able to taste it because he just picked it up from the, I see somebody, who has the Duvel. Was it the Barbados or that is the Jamaica?
And your Plantation.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Absolutely.
Nice.
Really great.
Well, we should all be jealous. Yeah. I hope you like it, but I thought they did a good job with it.
Yeah.
And
that's empty.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So, so that's what we call a barrel swap. I love to do barrel swaps because not only I learned so much from others. I've done probably more now than 60 partnership with master distillers and master blenders from all over the world. And, you know, I'm like, the guys who are more than 40 years old, they remember when we were kids, we had decks of football cards, you know, when you collect them. And it's like 2 decks, you know, swapping cards, you each end up with a better deck. When you work with other master blenders or even brewers, I was, you know, with the guy at Duvel and so on, Cedric, and you always learn a lot. And Cedric admitted to me that he's actually a distiller on the weekends, and he has a little distillery he's playing with that is making, of course, a nice beer. Now, the idea here was to use that rye barrel for 1 full year, you know, and I don't know if you agree, but what I wanted to do is to bring forward these spice notes. Very different, right? Remember, we had for example, when we had the Guatemala, was full-bodied, very round, very lush, very generous, right? And you know, the Jamaica rye finish, absolutely very dominant. Wonderful, Christophe. I agree. You know, I want you to know I have a team working with me, and there's a guy working with me called Nicolas. And Nicolas and I love to work with guys that I know their palate fully. And Nicolas is younger than me and maybe much more energetic about this. And he likes when it's obvious. You know, Nicolas, when we use a pitted barrel, it's got to be really pitted. And we disagree, by the way, but I'm the boss, right? So I end up to decide, right? So except that once in a while, he gets his way. So, you know, so his way is more obvious, more straightforward. But to me, maybe because I was taught by a grandfather from Burgundy, you know, the barrel should always be enhancing the wine or the rum instead of the other way around, right? Some master blenders, they'll tell you it's all about the barrel, Alexandre. It's all about the barrel. And I'm saying, no, it's all about the rum. You know, the barrel is there to just showcase the rum. So I agree on this one. But the rye brings, I don't know if you guys agree, there's these spice notes that are there that I thought was really exciting and very different than the other one, right? Yes, remember, we're talking about the beauty of rum. The beauty of rum is this beautiful diversity. I think you will agree that we're tasting very different liquids, right? From one to the other. Very, very different.
But about the finish, Alexandre, you said we have like a 1-year finish on that one.
Yeah, we have this one is 1 year in the rye, you know, it's called the ragtime rye from Alan Katz at New York Distilling.
Okay, because it's a bit more long than what we do usually, no? 1 year, most of the time.
It depends. You know, the ones before were 11 months. I used a stout beer from a Brooklyn brewery, and it was just 4 months. But okay. Usually it's between 6 months to a year, usually. Okay. But you know, we taste these barrels at the first step every week. Some people think it's just an excuse to drink, but it's not. I promise you, it's work. You know, we taste it every week, especially, you know, when it is a complicated endeavor, like a beer barrel. Is difficult. You know, beer, it's easy to screw it up. So you got to taste very often. If you use a Pedro Jimenez, okay, you can taste every week, even during the end of the tasting. But rye, we had to be very careful again, because as you see, you talked about the Jamaica. Somebody talked about the Jamaica. Why did I put more of the rye barrel in the Jamaica? I can explain why, and thank you, in the previous edition. Because when you have rye, you know, Jamaica is this full-bodied rum, where here Panama is a lighter body rum. So the shoulders of this Jamaica is like big shoulders, and so you can load up more of the spice from the barrel. It will still shine. Here you got a delicate rum that's got spice, delicate notes. You want that to be married together, and you don't want the other one to just flatten it. So that's why we had to be more delicate.
Yes, for me, being a column still, I mean, I'm tasting this one for the first time, so I was surprised it was a rye barrel was used, but I understand the point you make about Nicola, and he likes to have it coming out at you because it does pick up that spicy note very quickly. So I would like to taste the Jamaican one as well, just to see.
Yeah, me too.
How it compares between the two origins than in the rye barrel.
Yeah.
Well, then we're not going to. Maybe I put it in my. Oh yeah, but I'm gonna have to check my luggages. Otherwise,
No, you don't have to. It is just an excuse for me to visit you very soon again. So.
Exactly. You come back. You come back here.
Exactly.
You come back here. Absolutely wonderful. So that was the Panama. I hope you guys liked it. But you see, I'm just explaining as a creator of this what I'm really trying to do. Again, is to make the rum shine. And Panama's got some great things. And since we are in Panama, I want to show you something totally different, And by the way, in this Panama, we were at 12 grams of dosage, and again, a 51% alcohol. I'm going to show you something different with Panama, where I use a very difficult barrel, is a Syrah grape. Syrah grape, as you know, is very full-bodied from Côte Rôtie, so a wine barrel. So I use a Panama that was from 2007, slightly more body to the Panama, similar, 161 grams. So that's the quantity of flavors that you get, right? And drier, use the 8 grams of dosage, esters 51, so more estery. And this one is from 2007, 11 years in the bourbon barrel as well. Also 2 years in Ferrand, but here just 10 months in the Syrah Côte Rôtie. I thought that was such a big barrel, that a big barrel, that I had to be careful. I had planned, to tell you the truth, to go as high as 12 months, maybe. And then I thought, when it started reaching 9 months, I said, I think we're there. We got everything we need. And here, I don't know if you agree, but it takes it differently. You show a different side to the rum. The one before, because they're not very different rums as a base, but, of course, they're different barrels. And so they express themselves differently. But in the previous one, we push forward the spicy notes. I don't know if you agree here, but here I tend to feel that we push forward the blackberry, blueberry, violet.
Am Dienstag.
Sorry.
To me, I get more of the berries. You guys want to jump in? You can, but I get more of the berry notes. And, then the other ones were more about the spice notes. This is bottled at 47% alcohol. And obviously these berry notes I felt were really strong. Is it somebody's drinking?
When you say it's a big barrel, Alexandre, it's about 600 liter, or
no. When I say a big barrel, I apologize. I don't mean physically. I mean with the amount of flavor that it will bring in. I'm talking about taste and not about size. I apologize.
Got it.
Because with the Syrah, the Côte Rôtie, this is a barrel that you gotta be. That's a hunk. It's gonna bring nice, really strong flavors. That's what you have to be careful about. And I really, what I loved is that it brings like a lot of red berries notes, blueberry, blackberry again, violet notes also. I get little peppery notes. But then you get the wine aspect you didn't get from the previous one, right? It's a little more vinous, that you would get in certain rums. So that would be very traditional in the old days when these barrels would make it to, to Panama, for example, and then in the old days, people would ship back the rum in a wine barrels. But because we're in France and we have all these beautiful wine regions, then obviously we can use these barrels and make sure that, they work very well with the rum.
It's interesting to see the difference between two rum from the same distillery, from the same country, to see like how the barrel is making a big difference in the final taste on that one.
Well, Isaac, yes, and you're right, but also we choose different barrels for different barrels. You know what I'm saying? So for example, the Panama that I've used, for the previous degustation that we did for the 14 years old was I had these beautiful spicy notes, and I felt the rye barrel worked well. Here, to me, it was a little bit more citrusy, kind of orange and pepper kind of rum. And so I thought the orange and pepper notes, would work beautifully with this barrel that brought the red berry notes together. So but you're right. The result is quite a different rum because you push forward different elements, with the barrel. Again, the job of the barrel is to bring forward elements that would be undertone to bring them forward to really, so you have access to them. And quite a lot. For example, this one has some more esters as well, so more of the fruit flavor notes from the esters. The other one had a little less esters, the rum itself. So the fruit flavor notes I thought worked beautifully with these red berry notes that you get. Do you guys get these notes we're talking about? And that's
Yes, there's a lot of pepper notes, definitely, but it's well balanced. And I guess the Panama rum is not a normal Panama rum. So it's not the normal flavor or profile we have normally from Panama rum.
Yeah. To me, I like rums when they really sing something, when they tell you a story, when it's a middle of the road and it's good. And I always say to the team, when we do something, good is not good enough. I want something that's exceptional. Now, exceptional, you decide about if you like it or not, but exceptional means it's the exception. It's not your everyday thing. And that's I'm very adamant about this, the fact that making something that really tells you a full story. So here we're saying this story, but you're right, the pepper notes, the red berries, and so on. And the one before was this spicier, like red apple spicy that you'd have like in a fun fair, and the honey notes. So very almonds for the one before. So that's what I was working on in this one. Now, Don, we're going to go to Barbados, Don. So we got Christophe saying what I'm used to Panama in rum is chocolate. Here I feel strawberry to be very pronounced. You have a good palate, absolutely. The berries are there. And I totally agree with some of the Panama rums. Not all of them have these chocolate notes. And some of these barrels who have these chocolate notes, I want to use a nice stout beer barrels. So if you guys have a nice stout from Germany one day to recommend beer, somebody who would be willing to do a barrel swap with me, I will take the recommendations. Somebody who's willing to go to the trouble, because yes, when you have a rum that's got that nice chocolate note, usually comes from the higher alcohol, then when you do this and you use a stout, nice stout barrel. I had used like what we call a king stout, from our friends at Brooklyn Brewery, from one of our expression. It brought forward these nice chocolate notes. So I agree with you. Sometimes you do get these notes as well. So now we're going to go to Barbados, a more structured rum, 205 grams of volatile substances. This is the work of the gentleman that you have right here, Monsieur Dunben. Esters, beautiful level of esters, 81 grams. And here I chose a Malbec. So Malbec is a wine barrel, as you know. Again, a very well structuring barrels. To me, what I loved with it is the jammy, plummy, elements. You still have the nice coconut vanilla notes, from the original barrels, but I wanted to go to these jammy notes. This one is bottled at 49.8% alcohol. It is zero dosage in specific expression, because I thought, with these jammy notes and elements, to serve it at kind of a tight level would be really beautiful and nice. So that's what we did with this barrel, and I don't know if you get it, if you taste it now on your palate. Somebody, Christopher, was talking about some of the chocolate notes. I do get a mix of chocolate, but like a raw, black chocolate notes, not sweet at all, right? On the back of your palate, blended with nice little hint of coconuts. So think about like a black chocolate with nice coconut notes. I get, of course, on the notes, there's little notes of vanilla, but I do get a slight elements of mintiness as well. So I thought it was beautiful, and I thought it would work real nice with this barrel. So, Don, I want to hear you on this. Of course, we talk a lot, but I want to, this gentleman is really talented distiller. I want you guys to know we're really privileged to be with Don, and I feel very privileged to work with Don. And I want to, I know we talked about this, but I want you, to speak with the team here. This is 5 years, so everybody knows 5 years in Barbados aging, 1 year in a Ferrand barrel, and 1 year in this beautiful Malbec, full-bodied wine barrel that we got so fresh, and things like that. So Don, what do you think?
Well, for me, I can remember 2014 quite well. My son was 10 years old. My wife was expecting, and this is just the typical West Indies rum product. You talk about the Malbec finish, but I can really pick up that coconut note in it still. And on the taste, as you said, that chocolatey vanilla taste comes through quite a lot. So that is typical from the blend we do with the pot and the column. So the pot still for this one would be the Greg Farm. If anyone knows about it, they would have heard. It's a single pot distillation. We run it twice for a double distillation. The fermentation is 2 to 3 days. So again, not overpowering with esters. There's not enough time and acidity for esters to form to a great degree. But the pot is a well-balanced one, and it has a very long neck, so it does allow for some degree of reflux that's not typical with the Caribbean single distillation pot stills. The column would be a blend of the John Doerr and a larger unit that we have that produces a cleaner base, but when you reblend it with the product from the John Doerr, it gives a wonderful balance. So similar to what the Trinidadian rum was, we do bring different elements from different areas and bring them again at the end. So it allows us to get a consistency. So even if we are not getting what we need from the final draw, we can return elements into the blend to maintain that smoothness, that ester level. All of the volatiles are there. A lot of it is based on the pot. And then aging in Barbados is, you have to walk through our warehouses to smell. If you've been to the Caribbean, it ages a lot quicker. There's a lot more of that angel shear in the air when you walk through a warehouse in the Caribbean. So this smelling this reminds me of home. I've only been here a week, so I don't really need to be reminded of home as yet, but it does give a feel of.
Yet.
Yeah, I'm not homesick yet, no. So, but it just reminds me of going through our warehouses. That note, that coconut smell you get is more like a toasted coconut as opposed to a green coconut. Now, the John Doerr still is one of the key elements though of this, because that still gives a very balanced product on its own. It's not really designed for very clean production or very heavy, but you can really manipulate it to bring back a balance of esters that is not very only sweet, but it has that fusel feel of it of chocolate. So with that still, we can really pair those two things together. And it comes out in this product quite well.
Well, I can tell you, Don, I remember must have been 25 or 30 years ago, visiting the first time West Indies rum distillery. And I was, the French little redneck guy, visiting this distillery. And it was Red Harris, right?
Red Harris, yes. He was my... when I joined the distillery, he was basically the master distiller at that time.
Yeah. So, old generation, kind of tough as nail. I'm sure you didn't have fun every day. I hope he's not listening, but a traditional guy. And,
it got easier. It got easier as the years went by. You come in as a guys, very young or not too long out of school. The experienced guys who are there are going to make sure you learn in a very similar way to what they did. It's never going to be easy. You don't get to sit to do anything at a distillery. You have to be on your feet. If you're working a column still, you've got a lot of work to go up to the top and then back down to the bottom. So I was pretty much shown that traditional way of learning how to operate distills, hands-on, not really by a computer. And I don't do the same for the younger ones now. I try to allow them to see the benefit of both, so they do get to spend some time in a bit more of a relaxed environment. But I do appreciate what Rhett and the guys there would have done. And similar to what I found, a team that was very strong in technical skills, that's what we have now as well. So I'm here, but like back home right now, there are several people who are continuing the operation who are very knowledgeable, very skilled in what they do. So you can always have the confidence that what you see from West Indies rum now will be there and improving along the years, even after my time operating the stills have gone.
Well, you know what I think is incredible, and I don't know everybody, you know, I know West Indies rum distilleries for more than 25 years. I mean, of course I'm biased, but to me it's one of the best rum distillery in the world. And you know, some people say, of course you say that because you're part of the distillery. Well, remember, I got to really, you know, to me it was a marriage. And I got married to somebody I like. And to me, you know, obviously in some distillery I love. And what happens is, what's so beautiful about distillery, when Don tells you that there is some of elements, the pot still rum distilled in there, as distilled by the old Greg still, what he calls the Greg farm. This is a still that's been making rum since 1850. So 1850, 150 years, this still has been making rum. And it sure looks like it, by the way. When you see it, doesn't look so new and spiffy, but it's still making rum. And by the way, we had to give this still a little brother or a little sister, you choose the choice, and you know, called the hot pot, to do the first distillation now, because this beautiful storied and ancient still is still going to be distilling for many years to come, because the heavy lifting, you know, what's most testing for still is the first distillation. So we created, Don and I, with the team at the distillery, and Andrew, who's a historian working with us, and also you know, a general manager, we were able to design a still from our own archives at the distillery called the hot pot. And the hot pot is a still that was all made by hand, you know, from reclaimed copper from the archives. So the Greg is going to continue on making rum for a long time. So I think we're really privileged to have this equipment. And if anybody wants to come and visit us, you'll see all these beautiful, beautiful, you know, equipment and team making rum. And thanks to this old Greg, you can taste this quality. And I get these chocolate tobacco notes from the distillation, the jammy notes. That's the barrel's going to bring forward some of these elements. I get, you know, a little bit of raspberry and banana, because esters, you know, it's still 81, you know, in terms of esters, which, you know, is quite well when you consider the level, but also well balanced with the higher alcohol, which is chocolate notes. You know,
Alexander, if you permit me, I'll show part of the hot pot that people can get a glimpse of. I'm not sure if it comes through from the phone, so you let me know when it's good.
Yeah, closer. Huh?
Yeah. All right, it's a little blurred now. Oh yeah, that's good now. We got it. All right, don't move.
Yeah, you can see.
Don't move now. Yeah, that's the hot pot. That's the new baby. I want everybody to know that we designed that still from the archives that belong to the distillery. So if you go a little bit down, because it cuts the head of it. If you goes down.
Oh no, the picture is not.
Yeah.
So you only get that part of it now. My phone taking camera skills were not very good on that day. So
that's the new baby, guys. As you can see, it's reclaimed. So you got all the rivets from long time ago. And the idea is so we can make, this is not a retort system. Oh, thank you. That's a good picture once it clears up. Okay, good. And so it's not a retort. It's actually a double batch. You have to make it by hand, one batch and then another batch. There's no retort to it. It's the only batch distilling system in Barbados. That's the only distillery where you have a batch, meaning a double batch and not a retort. And the others are great too, but it's just what this is about, very ancient system. And we wanted to keep that heritage alive. Also, thank you, Don. And also, you know, what happens is that Don is very lucky, and I'm very lucky, because there's a guy at the distillery called Digger, Henderson, and Skinner, and he's been at the distillery, right, Don, distilling for 42 years.
Yes, 42 years, him, and his dad was there before him for 41 years.
Yeah, his dad, boy, he told me for 47 years, and so next year we're gonna celebrate this family 90 years, father and son distilling and making the rum. So these guys have seen distills making rum. So beautiful rum from Barbados. Well done, Don. Wonderful.
But just to come back to this rum we just tasted, I think that, to me at least, on the nose, it really smells like the combination of the roasted coconut, the vanilla, and maybe the Côte Rôtie cask. reminds me of Amburana.
Mhm.
Oh, wait, there is.
There's some cinnamon.
The similarities between both, yeah. It reminds me of Amburana wood.
Yeah, you have elements of spice, you know, that reminds you of that.
Yes.
You know, elements of spice. And we, you know, that we do, you know, I love Amburana barrels, by the way.
Yeah.
So some you know, so you see it in some of our expressions, you know, with the spice notes that I think is beautiful. You know, it's not necessarily the main element here, but I see totally what you're talking about the, you know, these specific elements. You know, I'm very adamant that we should protect the freedom of rum to use different wood variety. And actually, you know, Amburana is one that once, you know, I don't know about the government in Brazil now, and I'm not a politician, but we used to buy Amburana barrels. We stopped with the new, you know, the new government because, you know, we want to make sure the forest is protected. But once we're back to hopefully a government that has a you know, environment agency will buy back some Amburanas, because with some rum, the Amburanas always work beautifully with the cinnamon notes and spice notes as well, which I think are beautiful, and we love to use that. We have them. If you came to Cognac, some of our you know, cellars, we have some Amburana barrels, but we work with 15 different woods. You know, we work with chestnuts, we work with you know, different elements, and soon we'll be working even with caps of barrels made of mango tree. You know, the person working with Don and I at the distillery, Andrew, who runs the distillery with Don, and Andrew Assel, who's a great one, probably the best technical rum historian in the world. And he's thinking of doing a PhD with this, and it was just validating his knowledge, was finding documents showing that in the Caribbean, people were fixing barrels with the local wood. Now, a lot, that's very intuitive, right? But now we have the proof from a botanist in Jamaica that people were fixing barrels with mango trees, mastic trees, all the local woods. And of course, we can't help doing this. So very soon you'll also be able to taste these experiments. And we are actually fighting for us to be able to safeguard and to protect these very old traditions. So yes, oak is done and found everywhere. And we understand that oak is king because of Europe and USA. But you know, the Caribbeans and the tropical countries have different type of trees that were used to fix barrels. And we want to safeguard that tradition, provided the trees are sustainable. We don't want to cut trees that are in danger. So a mango tree, there's no mango tree very much in Barbados. There's some, but for example, in our good friend Liam Costello in Fiji, there was a big storm a year ago in Fiji, and I called him and I said, "Is everybody okay at, you know, Fiji Rum Co?" And he said yes. And I said, "Is there any tree down?" A lot. And they're distilling by biomass. They use wood in their stove. It's a small distillery. And I say, "Can you not burn the mango trees? Can you just cut them in size that this 1.5 times the size of the bottom of a barrel and put it in the container? We'll make caps for the barrels." So Don, very soon you'll see these caps. I know, you know, Andrew is ecstatic because it belongs to the Caribbean heritage to actually reintroduce the mango trees in the barrels. So I'm glad you mentioned the different type of woods. I'm very, very adamant that we should keep that freedom. And the dream of Andrew that works with, you know, Don and I, that, like I said, runs the distillery with Don, is that we should be planting these trees back for our children and grandchildren. But luckily, in some other countries, they are still available, and you can gently harvest them in a way that they are sustainable. And in France, for example, you know, when we use a chestnut, when you use oak, when we use, you know, mulberry, when we use all these different elements, or acacia, we work with the government agency called ONF, Organisation Nationale des Forêts, to make sure that they're sustainable. So I'm glad you mentioned about the different wood types, because yes, oak is the dominant element, but you got beautiful heritage about using different, you know, different wood kinds.
Alexandre, just a comment and a question from me. So the question first, have the caps been shipped as yet? I just want to be sure when to expect them.
I know you're very eager, Don. We
Yeah.
really are. You know, I'm always, you know, I have to call Liam because every time he says yes, 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 we're going to put them on the boat, and it never makes it because he puts a few other barrels instead. So it's not a bad thing, Don, because the wood is drying. So we want a wood that's a bit dry. So because we don't want the sap. So, you know, we're not wasting time by waiting. But yes, I'm so eager. I'm exactly like you, Don. And you know, remember our good friends from Mexico that made the vats, the beautiful wooden vats.
Yes.
Because what I want everybody to know is that West Indies Rum Distillery used to ferment everything in wooden vats, and then they went to, you know, we went to stainless steel vats, and Don and I and the team, we went back to wooden vats, and we are some wonderful vat cooper in Mexico that went and we built these vats, and Laure is who's, you know, married to somebody from Mexico. He's talking with these guys so they could actually find sustainable mango trees, so we can actually ship that to Barbados, Don. So it would be less impact on the environment than shipping from Fiji to Barbados, to ship from you know, Mexico to you guys. So the experiment will be done in France, but also will be done in Barbados as well. So you're getting the barrels, Don. No worries.
Okay, and just a comment now. So mango trees in Barbados, you did make the comment about they're not as plentiful. So yes, they are plentiful, but just to sort of complete that picture for everyone, they are in fruit and not available to be cut down for barrels. So we have to be, as you said, very careful that it's done in a sustainable way. And so either we plan for the future or we relocate someone who maybe a tree has fallen, and we don't need every part of the wood to be mango. But if you come to Barbados, rest assured, you can get fresh mango directly from the tree. There are plenty of mango trees in Barbados, but we are not allowed to cut any of them down.
But after you come back to Germany, you have a big problem. So if you have the mangoes from your trees, so you come back to Germany, you can't eat either mangoes from the supermarket here because the taste is so different. So
really,
yeah, that has nothing to do with what you are talking about mangoes. It's the same with all the Caribbean fruits. So if you have tried on the islands and then you come back and you buy some crazy expensive mangoes or whatever, so maybe 10 euros for one mango, to give you an example, and then you have to buy it and say, no, that's not a mango.
10 euro for a mango, that's what, maybe, I don't know, 40 Barbados dollars. Well, let me tell you, once you can climb a tree, you should be okay.
But then again, just as Alexandre said, and I agree with you, I mean, it has to be done in a sustainable way, and mango trees are mostly there to give mangoes and bring food to the people and not be cut to make barrels.
Yeah.
But if they should have some fallen trees because of hurricanes or whatever, and it shouldn't not make enough wood for a whole barrel, maybe it can be used like back then to fix barrels. Maybe just like with one stove or two, or some pieces of the barrel made out of mango trees.
So that would be what our ideal plan is. So we are actually looking around. I mean, fortunately for us in Barbados, not many hurricanes pass away.
Yeah, that's right.
But if there's ever a tree fallen for any reason or cut down, and it's compatible with food and being able to use it as a barrel, we can make the cap. We have people who can make they make the dish for pizza, so it's very similar. It's just a bit wider diameter. Or you can, as you said, repair stave here or there. So you don't need a whole barrel to be.
So I guess, as far as I could understand, Alexandre, you haven't tried or you don't know yet what types of flavor that type of wood would bring to the liquid.
Yeah, you're right. You know, we know, there's a lot of beautiful things. People don't realize how rich the history of rum making is. I mean, some things Don knows and we know about, for example, fermenting. The Caribbeans are much more advanced in fermenting than a lot of countries in Europe. And because rum is such a long history, and they're different. In the old days, people were using local woods to fix barrels, right? You just didn't ship everything all the time because shipping was expensive, and now we just put something on a big boat and with diesel and it comes over. So people were very savvy and they were fixing locally. So, and I think that was the right thing to do. So exactly to what Don is saying, when trees are blown down on the floor, do you just do wood chips with it to just compost, or actually you could use it to make a beautiful cap ends? And you know, we love that stuff. And I don't know the result yet, but it's probably good. But when you see somebody who's done it in the Caribbean for more than 50 years, they're not crazy. They're incredible knowledge people about rum making. So somebody's doing it for a reason. It was mastic wood and all of that, you know.
Yeah.
Now what happens again, you know, it's like the forests. Forests, it's about sustainability. You don't want to cut more than you plant, right? But you know, and so it's the way you and so, but when they fall down, or when you have a deep forest and you plant more than you harvest, then you can harvest, and you can do that. This is what we do with oak. This is what we do with mulberry. With this, what we do with cherry wood, and so on. You know, for example, in France. And I got to tell you, I love your question, because I've worked with 15 different type of wood types, and I can't wait to try mango. I don't know about you guys.
Yep.
And I saw somebody commenting to say, hey, Barbados has mango, we have beer in Germany. I totally agree. And I'm saying I can use the beer barrel and the mango barrel as well, you know, just two different rounds.
Use them together.
Exactly, you know, that's the beautiful thing. So now we're going to go to Jamaica, Clarendon Distillery.
Alexander?
Yes.
I just have a quick question about the still you were talking about in Barbados. You were saying there is not retort in it, and I wanted to ask you.
Retort. This is not a retort still. Yes.
Exactly.
You know, most people, you know, in the old days, the pot stills were just classic pot stills. You know, you distill once, then you take it back and you distill twice.
Yeah, it's the same as in cognac, right? It's the same as
it's really the most original, the most. I mean, it's a very delicate way of distilling. It's very work intensive, very work intensive.
Yeah.
And so I get Bastien, who's getting me tempted, and Don tempted to make you guys a very natural mango rum one of these days. Maybe we should do that, Don, for these guys. Don't tempt us too much. You know?
Please. I'm getting homesick now.
So, you know, the pot still that are double batch, so you distill once and twice, and that's a lot of work. And a lot of distilleries gave that up, you know, and they went to a system that's also wonderful, by the way. It's a retort system. So a retort system is actually, we're building a retort system for Barbados as well, because we respect it as well. You know, it's a system that you have a pot that feeds into a second one and then a third one. Actually, that system was put together by a guy from Gascony, the Armagnac region, and very different, you know, where he thought I can have the first pot induce the second one and then the third one, because in that case, to have the result of double distillation, you need like a double retort. So that was developed later on. And the Caribbeans really love that system and do great job with it. So you see it a lot in Jamaica. You see it in other distilleries, you know, like throughout the Caribbeans. But, you know, Barbados West Indies Rum Distillery, who likes, you know, some of the full-bodied rum, used to own a single retort. So for a more full-bodied taste than a double retort. And we're actually arguing now together at the distillery, should we do a single retort or a double retort? And Andrew is voting for the single retort from the old drawings we have. And I think, you know, well, why don't we do double that we can run as a single as well, you know, so we can do different type of rums. So that's the retort, like I said, is so you pass it through once, you know, so it's more simple in terms of less time consuming, but it's really one pot leading to a retort and then another retort. All right.
Okay.
So that's the retort system.
And so right now this still is not a retort yet, right?
No. These are the Greg, you know, 1850 is a pure double batch. So one batch, and then you wait, and then you take it back and distill another time. Very time consuming. And when we created, and actually Scotch whiskey, when you do single malts, that they still have the batch system. They don't have a retort, for example. And when you do cognac, Isaac, you know very well, cognac is also a double batch, that same way. And with the hot pot that, you know, Don showed you the picture, also is very work intensive. it is a double
Yes.
batch. You know, you do one batch and then you take it back and then you distill a second time. We love this system because it's extremely precise. You get the yeah, exactly. Who's drawing like this? Is that you, Don? I'm sure you did that. So that's a double retort designed by Don.
Did you understand?
Exactly. So thank you, Don. And so you know and West Indies rum distillery is very unique in a sense. This is one of the very last distilleries. There's others, but one of the very last distilleries to really hold tight to the double batch system. And yet, you know, we used to own, if you look at the archives of a single retort, and we're thinking it would be nice to just have one as well, you know, and you know, for that. So it's a great transition, Isaac, because we're actually going to Jamaica and we're going to taste a rum from Clarendon Distillery, the 2013. This is Clarendon, and this one is, you know, also uses Duvel barrel. So the same, I want you to know, is the same beer actually from Duvel, and this distillery, you know, actually a third of Clarendon is owned by National Rum of Jamaica, which is you know 100%. So a third is owned by West Indies Rum Distillery. So the distillery where Don is working every day owns a third of Clarendon through National Rum of Jamaica. It's a beautiful distillery, Clarendon. Clarendon, this is a vintage from 2013. It's distilled in a Vendome double retort system. So it's wonderful that we talked about it. Volatile substances, so it's a heavier bodied rum, 270 grams, zero dosage, bottled at 42%. I thought was really full bodied, would work well. And this one has spent 10 months in the Duvel barrel after spending 3 years in Jamaica and 4 years in Cognac, you know, in our own Cognac barrels, so the spice. And, you know, to me, what I thought was beautiful in there was I still get the little citrusy notes, but I don't know if you agree with me, but I had nice leathery caramel notes that I thought was really nice. And Don, if you don't know if you agree, but I get a little soursop in there, and I don't know if you're with me on this one. You know,
not yet, but I'll get there hopefully.
And do you get the orange skin as well? You know, like
I get a citrus note, but the soursop is
orange peel.
I'm hoping the soursop in the Caribbean is not different from the soursop here, because it's a very peculiar taste. You don't smell it as much, but you do taste it a lot for a soursop.
Yeah. So Christophe is catching on also the orange skin, almost like Cointreau. I agree, by the way. It's more like really the skin that's distilled is very, I'm totally agreeing on this one. And to me, I get also a bit of lime notes, but the orange is much more forward. And I don't know if you agree, but on the second notes, I get almost grapefruit notes as well. So I like this little citrus notes. Obviously, that was enhanced by the beer barrels, but I thought already it's there inside the rum.
And I guess that you have the beer note if you smell it. So much more than we had it was the first one, was a beer.
And you know, it's interesting you say this, because I agree with you. But in the first one, you should, that's why, you know, techniques is never, you know, science can only explain very little, you know, when your nose is so different. I can tell you, your nose smells different, the same compound, depending on the concentration. In the first one we had, the Trinidad was much lighter as a rum, you know, very delicate, you know, 150 grams of volatile substances. And yet, I agree with you. You should have smelled. If you look at science evidence, you should have smelled the beer barrel more, because, you know, actually in the Trinidad, I used 11 months and it's a lighter rum. And here I used 10 months because I thought the beer barrels was already there. But I hope you agree that it works well. You know, I thought these citrus notes, almost grapefruit notes, I thought was beautiful. I get some of the green apple as well right now. You know, and I thought, yes, I'm definitely. Right? So I thought that was interesting, but I do get the beer accents. I totally agree with you. And I thought I thought it worked fine. I thought it was really nice. And of course the citrusy notes of that beer. So, you know, so as you've seen in this tasting, it's not about the good old bourbon barrel that everybody's done. So I see somebody, Lucas, saying Clarendon usually brings some hop notes, even without any finishing. So it's interesting you say this. You know, Clarendon, there was a big change about 20 years ago. Clarendon used to work with the water for fermentation from a river called Salt River. If you look on Google Map, you look at Clarendon, and it's a distillery that's a South Jamaican style. You have two styles in Jamaica. You have the South style, that you know, they don't in South Jamaica. You don't use dunder you don't use muck pits. You could use dunder for acidification, but you don't use a muck pit. Where northern part, which is northern west, you know, typically which is called the Trelawney styles of rum, so Long Pond and Hamden, you use the muck pit. So Clarendon is always this very elegant, intense, but very balanced rum. It's a very classic southern style, you know, especially when you are 100% pot still like this one, you know, and if you taste a Clarendon that's older than 20 years, it's highly collectible. It was fermented with the water from the Salt River. And then, you know, Europe got some funds into distillery, and then people decided to use some of drill a well, and it's beautiful rum as well, but you don't have this kind of funky notes that you get from the super old rum from the distillery. And for me, what I get with Clarendon is not as much as the hop, to tell you the truth, but what I get always is a lot of style, and I usually get these banana notes of Jamaica, but in a very controlled way. I get usually a bit of green pineapple, some citrus notes, and you know, so it's this very elegant yet intense style, especially when you use the true Clarendon style, which is 100% pot still. Now, Clarendon also owns a column. It's quite a modern column. I know Neil Glasgow, who's just retired, loves some of the notes of that column, and I totally respect it. You know, but you know, the one I like the most for Clarendon, there's a master distiller, Flavia, who's doing a great job there. Clarendon is also growing its own cane that are turned into molasses, you know, by the sugar mill next door. The sugar mill has closed down, so we're looking at the future in a different way. And you know, but also, you know, it's the middle of the cane fields there, and so it's quite a interesting distillery. And again, a lot of know-how, you know, sharing from the team and National Rum of Jamaica and West Indies Rum Distillery and Clarendon. Wonderful, wonderful team. And remember, this is also the sister distillery at NRJ's, another very storied distillery called Long Pond Distillery, which is a Trelawney Northern West style, which is this really, really intense, really style. And the people from Northwest in Jamaica don't necessarily, you know, taste the rum from the South, and the guys from the South don't necessarily taste this or appreciate the same way the rum from the North. So here you have a very classic Clarendon style that I find beautiful, you know, in its style, elegance, balance, and so on, you know, and that's the beauty of rum. You can have, you know, sometimes I get people to say, but Alexandre, which one do you prefer? Well, of course, I do think that, you know, there's so much to Barbados and Jamaica, but we've tasted other expressions that I hope you will agree are beautiful. What is very true about rum is rum is a lot about the heritage and the culture. And if you see Don, and once you know Don and you taste the rum that Don makes, and you know Don and Don's culture, Barbados, it's about education, it's about balance. I don't want Don to blush, but it's about making this very it's true. I mean, and that's true. That's Barbados. And when you go to Jamaica, and that's Barbados food, and that's that culture. And Barbados, they're crazy like the French, you know, they don't throw any equipment. So when everybody threw away the pot stills, the double batch stills, Barbados says, you know what, we're going to keep them. You know, I was even one day arguing with the team in Barbados when we had these old AC, air conditioning units from 1990. And remember, Don, where they were? They were right next where the stills are. And I'm like, you know, I think we can throw away these old air conditional units. We're not using them anymore. But of course, typically, you know, the French would do the same thing. We can keep them if we need spare parts or things like that. So you got this very educated country that is about balance and elegance and style, and you feel it in the rum. And West Indies Rum Distillery has been the backbone of rum making since 1893, making rum from all the others, in all the other distillery that you know at one point or the other, you know, until 10 years or no, 6 years ago, you know, at one point or the other. And then if you go to Jamaica, you know the Jamaican culture, you know, these full-bodied elements, you know, and I think it's also a reflection of the culture. And that's why. And when I get people saying, which one do you prefer? I always answer, why do you want me to choose when you taste Jamaica and Barbados side by side, you know? But what I always insist is these rums, I love them when they're true to themselves. And true to themselves is what we think is the most important thing. And that's why we research history. And I will finish on one note telling you one thing. Every distillery has a DNA. And usually the DNA is the lady or the guys that started the distillery. And the DNA of West Indies Rum Distillery was a crazy guy called George States. That was a total geek, was a genius rum distiller, and also has many patents under his name. He was actually from Germany, believe it or not. And he's a guy that probably, I don't know why, but he left Germany and went to Barbados and to Trinidad and claimed he got the nationality from the Caribbeans. At the time was the British Empire. And his dream was to make the most perfect rum. This guy was a genius, George States, and he has many patents under his name, including his own still called the States still. If you look on internet, it's documented, and we have all the documents. And this guy chose this beautiful place called Spring Garden because the spring, you had the clean water, beautiful water to make rum, and because it was on the beach, not because he liked to swim on the beach, but because you could ship the rum out right straight from the beach. And that does define a specific taste. And you know, you see guys like Don, they're very educated, they're very knowledgeable, but Don is joined by people like Dario, who's extreme, he's a scholar about yeast. You got Terry, who was a brewer, you know, in the beer company, joined us, and I could name many others. We talked about Digger Anderson, making rum there for 42 years, his father 47 years. And the DNA of this distillery is about knowledge. But I want everybody to know, you're probably thinking, so why don't we know more about this distillery? Because at one point there was an act, you know, where this distillery could only supply the others, couldn't have its own brands. So now I'm so proud that you see, and thank you, Don, proudly wearing the colors of Plantation, but also the colors of States. So we have Plantation, which is about one of the tradition of West Indies Rum Distillery was double aging. West Indies Rum owns double aging. We have the proof that West Indies Rum used to age both in Barbados and in Liverpool. And, you know, and so that tradition goes on with Plantation, and also States Rum that we launched again, and you know, which is 100% tropical age. So both are the heritage of Barbados Rum Distillery. And I can't wait until you guys come. You know, we are working on this distillery, and so we can do this next tasting, not me sitting here in Cognac and Don sitting in Germany, while it's really enjoyable, I'm sure.
Everyone in
all of us sitting right next to the beach of, you know, of the distillery there in Spring Garden. So I just wanted to tell you this, because as you can see, it's I feel I'm privileged to work with these guys, but it's one of a kind distillery that was established by a German guy with a dream, and we're walking in the footsteps of doing this, and that was 1993. Don, wouldn't you agree that everybody joining the distillery, you got all these guys with a high level of, you know, of knowledge and techniques, I mean, and education. I mean, I'm always baffled with this for 25 years.
Yeah, well, just to be sure, no one got the wrong date. It is 1893.
1893.
1893, yeah. But yeah, that ethos of strong technical ability and knowledge has maintained. As I said, when I came there, that's what I found, and I benefited greatly from it. And I see my role now as to really give that back to the people coming through now. So two of the names you mentioned there, Dario, Terry, I mean, I don't think they're past 30. If they are, they're barely past 30. And very knowledgeable, very enthusiastic. And I think the distillery has a strong future with persons like that coming through. So as I said before, you're going to see a lot more. You'll see the name, obviously, a lot more. How you see me is how I dress every day at work. So I just felt that I should wear this so people would know. We probably wear the Plantation brand on our sleeves. We have other shirts with states that goes right there as well. So all of the team are proud to be part of this story right now and the marriage that you spoke about, and allow me to continue.
Well, thank you, Don. And I feel exactly the same way. And we're a family business, and we give it all, and we live by and for this. And feel very privileged to work with the team, Don. So it's a promise. You guys can come and visit us. And if you have any question, otherwise I love to do this. I'm just frustrated I'm not with you in person. I hoped you liked this little glimpse into going back to the golden age of rum, where it was just not 100% bourbon barrels, but where it was about different expressions. I can make you a promise right here and then. We're going to continue doing this every year with a single barrel by showing you, and taking you some of these traditions. Yes, Isaac picked up on it right away. Next year, you will have a Pauillac. We will not be able to call it Chateau Latour because I've worked with the technical guys and the owners, they're the brand owners. It's a patented brand. And of course, we respect the legal ownerships, but it is a Pauillac, will be, signed as a Pauillac, finish, but the secret now, and you'll know where it comes from. So you can taste them. I'm not telling you the origin. I will leave you to guess until you see it next year. Okay. That will be my little surprise. Nice. And if you want, and if you're interested, we'll be able to do that again with the guys at Rum Depot. I want to thank you guys. What you do for rum is one of a kind. I mean, we know each other for many years, right? And you're a rum guy, and what you do with the show, with everything, it's second to none. So if every time I turn around in the Caribbean, I see you, that means the commitment you have to the products, but also to the culture. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and thanks you for what you do for rum. I think rum is such an incredible spirit. What we believe in, at Plantation of West Indies Rum Distillery at States, is preserving this whole heritage, but also keeping rum alive by continue to create, with our roots into this wonderful heritage. And I can tell you one thing, it's very humbling with the team at West Indies, the team in Jamaica, and also the archives that we have in Barbados. I'm 55-year-old guy. I've been doing this for 32 years, and I learn every single day. Every single day I learn. And everything I learn, I make sure it's used to make better rums, as far as I'm concerned. So I want to thank each and every one of you. And if you've got a question, obviously, I'm really excited to answer. Or Don, obviously, Don, you got somebody, one of the best distiller in the world that's sitting right there in the room. So he knows his stuff. If you've got a question, I see that Bastien has one. A former expression, a favorite rum has been the 1998. Which one? I got ... What's the answer? The
Marsala.
Oh yeah, Marsala. I love the Marsala. What was the origins? Because I work with
and he's asking for which distillery that one was.
Which was the origin? Because I worked, that was a while ago. The Marsala was
it's Jamaica.
Yeah, Jamaica. It was a Clarendon Marsala. Yeah.
Ah,
Clarendon.
okay.
Yeah.
Because I was talking to Dirk about it, and he also wasn't sure.
Well, yeah, that's and you'll see. I mean, Long Pond is incredible, and it's got very concentrated. And then Clarendon's got the style, and Marsala, it's also a beautiful barrel to use. I mean, I will use Marsala anytime. That's and that works. I could do a Barbados with Marsala anytime as well. You know, think about these notes. So you just get me, you know, going on this. So that's wonderful. And you know, so that's great. Yeah, that's something that we like to do for sure. Well, thank you for the feedback. That's wonderful.
So
I share the same taste than your wife for rum.
so there's one more from a small comment from Sönke. So he says he is retasting the first one, and now he has a lot of German typical Weissbier.
Ah, wow. All right. It's it again now. That's funny. So explain to me, can I have a little taste, your tasting notes? I gave you mine. I'd love to share with you. What do you get there?
So you mean in the first one, right?
Yeah, the first one he's saying is get the Weissbier. So what would you describe it to me? Just educate me, you know, about like.
Okay, Weissbier is a little bit more sour mash, definitely.
Yeah, okay.
So you have more sour notes and you have more yeast.
Yeah, I could see that. Don't you get, you know, in French, we call that le fond de verre. Le fond de verre is when you have not left in your glass, much left, like me, le fond de verre. And it's a glass when you come back to it. You know, you know, it's really a test to a rum or to a cognac. You know, my wife hates me for this because I go to bed usually with 10 or 15 glasses of rum or cognac I put on my nightstand. Because, you know, as you go and you read, I like to read at night. You know, you can have the sip, but then, you know, I don't know about you, but maybe I'm getting older. When you get up and you go to the toilet in the middle of the night, sorry to give you details, but you can have a little tasting of this and it makes it worth it. And that's called the bottom of your glass, the fond de verre. And le fond de verre reminds you that a great rum tells you a story. What you smell at the beginning, what you smell in the end, and what's going to go on is going to continue on. But be sure about one thing, a beautiful rum will tell you a long story, and one that is a flat rum will just disappear, you know, or you just will have the wood that is left. You know, if it's just the wood that is left, it is the wood. Remember, the wood is like you wearing a beautiful coat, if it's beautiful wood, you know, but you need the man inside the coat, and the man inside the coat is the rum. And if you only see the coat and there's nobody in that coat, is that a rum? I'm not sure, right? So, but I do get, to me, I mean, I'm not educated about beer as you guys are. And again, I need that, but I don't know if you do, I get some honey notes coming back to me, you know, now as what I call the bottom of the nose on this one. I don't know if you agree with this, but.
Yeah, and also you have some roasted notes.
Yeah, I agree. Some of these roasted notes as well, yeah. And so it's a rum that's gained, you know, in complexity in the glass that I thought was interesting. So, you know, so you can go back to your glasses. It's a test of a good rum. And, you know, if you go back to your Barbados right now, I get like loads of coconuts, actually, you know, that are jumping at me and jam. So, you know, Don is doing many things. He's also the one who selects the barrels that we're using and the bourbon barrels because in Barbados we use bourbon barrels, and Don uses real good quality, good quality. He knows he's got 22 years in tasting barrels.
Yeah, that makes a big difference actually.
Yeah, and so you can see sometimes if you use barrels that are old and dusty, you got the off notes. Here you can see that's a barrel that's real clean and nice. So you got this nice straightforward coconut notes from that bourbon side barrel, but that is not like these dusty kind of, you know, sickling notes. They're shining right now. And I don't know if you're with me, but I really get these chocolate notes as well, totally. And that the chocolate notes come from the, got raspberry as well, by the way, slight banana. That comes from the way it's distilled. I got nice delicate notes of raspberry and banana right now. So that's the bottom of the glass. I love to do that test, you know, when you go back to the barrel, to your glasses, you know, and they show different elements as you taste them. And you see, when I taste the 14 years Panama, you know, Now I'm more onto actually the wood elements from the American oak is kind of bringing forward right now, because you got you have two takes, you have two levels of the American barrels that really is showing. And what do we do with the used barrels? Well, you know, the beauty of Plantation, we are in a circular economy. So, you know, first, the barrels are used to make bourbon or American whiskey. Then Don chooses all his barrels. He usually works directly with the distilleries, sometimes with brokers, but he uses very fresh first fill barrels. They arrive in Barbados, they're used usually for 5, 6 years, 7 years max. And then we ship the rum inside the barrel. That's very important for Plantation. And I remember West Indies Rum Distillery, you know, the guys, you guys thought we were crazy when we said we ship the barrels. Now the team loads containers better than anybody else. You know, remember you used to use a lot of planks and stuff. Now you just put the barrels inside the container. Beautiful work. And so you got the dynamic aging. The barrels are, you know, dancing at sea when the ship is going through. Our dream with Don and I and the team is one day to do this all by sailing ship. Right now, by sailing ship is too expensive. So we do use it by traditional ship, going back usually to Kingston and back to Europe. So that's called dynamic aging with the movement. You know, the inside of barrels is quite rough from the way that there was a fire inside, you know, when the barrel was built. So it creates a rough surface. So the interaction between the rum and the barrel is real strong. And when it arrives in Cognac, we pour it into a Ferrand barrel, you know, and a Ferrand Cognac barrel. And then what happens after these barrels go to either whiskey makers or so we sell them to, you know, some different producers of Scotch whiskey or French whiskey and sometimes we do barrel swaps. The beer makers now want to buy our barrels. Even remember the Stiggins Fancy, you know, the pineapple rum. We got guys now wanting to these barrels. And Irish whiskey, it's legal for them to use a rum that has contained fruits. So if you're interested, Teeling, my good friends, Alex Chatko from Teeling Distillery, I do barrel swaps with him every year. I think he's a genius distiller and master blender. And he's done a Teeling barrel, you know, inside the Teeling whiskey with the Stiggins Fancy, you know, the pineapple rum. And I'm going to give you a little secrets. We made a limited edition of Stiggins Fancy and his peated rum. So we call it the smoky expression of which is delicious as well. So, but the barrels go through, you know, really a circle economy, because remember, we got to be careful when trees are being cut. And it's, you know, when you think it's only used once in America, it goes through this life in the Caribbean and back to Europe. So they use quite a few times to make beautiful spirits along the way, like I just gave you the examples.
By the way, the smoky formula will be available at the beginning of November in Germany. So it's coming in less than a month.
Okay.
You know what I liked is that, you know, Alex Chatko is a master distiller, master blender that's very delicate in the way he works. When you look at him, he's taller than 2 meters. So you don't think delicate when you see the guy, but when we see his work, he's a very delicate guy and the way he works. And one day he told me he was going to do a peated whiskey that was many years back. And I said, wow, I want to taste the peated whiskey, because, you know, sometimes peated whiskey is like a pissing game, you know, the one that got the more peat, you know, they're like, how many ppm, you know, and sometimes you feel like, you know, it's a lot, like you're licking the fireplace, right? And sometimes it's delicious. So, you know, he worked with this beautiful peated whiskey, and when it was ready, I used it for the pineapple rum, and I thought that was delicious. And he's using that pineapple rum for some of his whiskeys. So that's what we call the barrel swap, and that's the circular economy of the barrels. You know, instead of finishing their life in Barbados and being thrown away, they go through the whole life making beautiful spirits along the way. And by the way, we didn't invent anything. It's the old circular economy, like in the old days where people were very careful, because shipment was expensive and because it was expensive to make barrels, where machinery, most of it was done by hand. So we're faithful to that.
We have a question from Lucas talking about the one-time edition, asking us if we have some next release coming. And Actually, the Panama will come, and we have also Jamaica coming in January, if I remember correctly.
Yes, we do, and also every year. So, that's why thank God we're an independent company, because if Don and I worked for very big groups, I would be fired every day because we always create different things. So we got all these editions. Yes, we have some one time, but also we have the extremes. So the extremes editions are also very limited editions of rums that we find quite like super interesting. They're very rare on their own. So you keep posted, there'll be some very interesting. And also, I want everybody to know there's less and less aged rum available in the world. So if you like aged rum, just collect them. They're not gonna, there's not huge amount. And Plantation is doing the single vintage edition, the vintage edition every year. And we did, as you know, and now we've decided to put the number of barrels that the edition represents, so to be even more transparent. And you might have seen and tasted the one from Australia, which actually has used, this one was one of the last expression of the Binleys when they used a yeast from Jamaica, actually, because the Australian has learned a lot about rum in Jamaica and Barbados. And there's a lot of Barbados people who actually, Don, I think you will agree, had moved to Australia. And there's a lot of knowledge that has been transpiring through. So, and Don, you'll be surprised to know that they use Schizosaccharomyces pombe yeast in Australia that was borrowed from Jamaica, and they used it for 80 years until 2010 or 2011. So we did a release that was one of the last edition. That was a 2007 Australian rum that was used from pombe yeast that was grown, originally harvested in Jamaica and grown for many years through.
Yes, I actually found that out a few months ago. So I tasted it as well. It's a wonderful product. But interestingly, that type of yeast is within our possession as well at West Indies Rum. So you'll see how close we can match that type of product, or even be seen as a superior product in the near future.
Well, what happens, I always like the way, you see the culture of Barbados when you see Don, there's a lot of knowledge, but not a lot of showing off. So, what Don is not telling you is West Indies Rum Distillery grows some of its own yeast and some of its own bacteria to make these really very unique rums. And if you're lucky, I'll show you a little bit picture that of a nursery where Dario and Terry are growing specific yeast strain.
I have the picture, so I can show you.
All right, so I'll show you. And the Jamaican will probably call this something like a muckbed, as it's different. And it's actually, we call it a nursery in Barbados, where we grow our own. We believe that it's a beautiful thing to grow. Actually, instead of buying just distilling yeast, distiller yeast is to grow our own yeast in Barbados. And remember, we're right on the beach. So we just repainted the gates around it. But what you see in the middle is yeast cultures and bacteria culture. And what you see in the background is the sea, the Caribbean Sea, the green blue color of the coast and the sea. And you see all the bacteria cultures. That's actually when we did we refurbished the vats they used to make in stone. Now they're made in concrete, the vats, and there's a roof obviously on top. So you don't want the rain to fall in it, but you want the air from the sea, the natural air and so on to come. And it's almost like a pollination, to feed into these yeast growth. So I want you to know that you're lucky to see these pictures. The team had agreed with me that we would go into sharing all these that were kept secret at West Indies Rum Distillery for over 100 years. So we're sharing elements. I still get a little bit of slack sometimes from Andrew, because we sometimes do rum using a little bit of seawater. And I said, we should tell the world about this. We have that in our archives, and we redesigned that. We're using 1% seawater. And then we got some people, some of other rum producers being very critical of this, saying you shouldn't do that and so on. And then Andrew says, you see, we shouldn't say anything so we can make our own beautiful rum and be left alone. You could hear Andrew saying that, right? But I'm thinking, I think we should fight and continue to fight for our transparency and to fight for what we believe is right. And that's why we tell you these things. So, but thank you, Don, for sharing this. And thank you for agreeing that we share the beauty of West Indies rum distillery and all these research. So when we talk about the Schizosaccharomyces pombe, that's what people call the pombe yeast or fission yeast. These are incredible yeast that are not very big yields. Typically, commercial distillers yeast will yield in a column about 270, 272, 273 liter of pure alcohol per ton. If you use this yeast, you're lucky if you reach 200. So you give up some quantity, but you gain in the taste. So there's no free ride.
That's why you don't have a lot of people using it, I guess.
Well, that's why most people gave it. But Don, will you agree? Thank you. I see Olaf saying, I love the classic Barbados 620th anniversary. The 20th anniversary, I'll tell you a little story. This is the only rum in our range, Olaf, that I didn't blend myself. I'm an old guy now. I've been doing this for 32 years. I'm not that old. I'm 55 years old. I have a 24-year-old son. So he's coming along. And when I was a master blender for 20 years, there was a big party here. Don knows we work very hard, but we like to celebrate. So every excuse is a good one. So we did a celebration. I got to tell you one thing is that about a year before this celebration, I saw some of the very special Barbados barrels we have at the distillery here in Cognac disappearing. And I know my team too, very honest. And so I was not worried, but they said, no, we're doing something. So they surprised me with the master blend. And they used 20 type of different toasting and different type of barrels to make a blend. They presented to me. And that was this beautiful Barbados, old rum, which is both, I think, quite accessible, but extremely complex in the type of woods that it's using. And it's made with the column that Don talked about, but also with the old Greg talked about. So this is very generous, very full-bodied, very technical, was a bit of a show-off in the number of barrels used. And I liked it so much that we created that rum. And we called it 20th anniversary because it was a present to me for my 20th anniversary as a master blender. Now I passed the 30 years anniversary and now 32 years. So, just getting older so that's when we launched the 20th anniversary because I thought the guys did such a beautiful job.
It was in 2009, huh?
Yeah, that was 2009 exactly when it was launched, and the rum comes from West Indies Rum Distillery. This rum would have been in 2009. That would have been distilled, some of it by Don and some of it by his predecessor. So that's it as well. Thank you very much. It's a nice rum, very full-bodied, a sipper. I like it straight. I like it on ice, very generous, and I thought that was really beautiful. Well, if you guys, any other point?
Lucas had the last question about Vulcan steel release. If I remember correctly, we have some extreme coming from the Vulcan, no?
Well, not yet. Don't be too impatient, Vulcan, but I'm calling you Vulcan. But Lucas is a real rum knowledgeable person. West Indies Rum Distillery owns a still called the Vulcan. It's a chamber still. It's the only one in the world of its kind. It was designed in the Americas in the early 1800s, and it made its way to Barbados. It's a 19th century still, and Don and I and the team, we all wanted to fix it up. So we fixed it up. It sometimes leaks. It sometimes needs welding.
You're being kind to it. We have to handle it with great care. It does work well, but you have to be very gentle with it. So we can't push it to that point that it is.
Well, it's a museum piece, Don, right?
Yes, it is. You're just having
Nee, das ist der Wagen. Thomas, kannst du bitte dein iPhone stumm schalten?
Ja, bin schon dabei.
Danke.
Yeah, so the Vulcan is a chamber still. So the guys who don't know, everybody thinks there's a pot still and there's a column still and that's it. Actually, no, there's another kind called a chamber still, or the Americans call it the charge still. Now, remember, I told you I was visiting the distillery long time ago with the, Red Harris, and I see this tube in the corner, like in the corner in the middle of the room, really. And I'm saying, is that a chamber still? And, I mean, Red was a bit of a, I mean, he's not like the chummy kind of guy. I think you would agree on first approach, right? Would you agree, Don?
Yeah, if you got to know him, he was never warm and fuzzy, but he would warm to you eventually. But if you just saw him, you would not think he would be approachable. But he's a very nice guy after you get through that layer.
Yeah, exactly. But imagine I'm visiting with him and I said, is that a chamber still? Like, he's like, how do you know about chamber still? And he's like, yeah, this is something we got, from the US. This has been here. It's an oldie. It's used to make Navy rum. And it distilled, I think, until what, 2000. And then Don and I and the team, we said, when we, all got married and worked together, we said we should invest and fix that still because it's thick enough. I mean, it really is. And so think of it of a retort, but on top of one another. And we had made, when was the last drop of the re-edition done? When we're all together? I don't have a good memory for dates. Was it what, 2000? When was it when we did the first drop of the
2018?
2018.
Yeah.
And thank God Don remembered some of it, but thank God we have Digger.
Yeah, Digger is the key to that, how we were able to restart it. It last operated before that in 2002.
Yeah.
And we had stopped because we were having some challenges with, as you said, leaks, and it was like, okay, do we keep working this hard? And we decided no. But equally, it was a great decision to reinvest in getting it to operate again. And we now have a new team of very young guys and ladies who can work it. So it's being done for the future. So hopefully we can keep working it, but very carefully. It's a piece of Barbadian history as well, so we don't want to damage it, basically.
So Don and I and Andrew promised the team and Digger that when that still gets tired, we'll do a reproduction. We'll do exact copy of that still, because this is history. And we'll never exhaust it to the end. We'll keep it to do a re-edition to compare it. So, but Lucas is probably thinking, guys, I want my answer when I get to taste this. I'm going to tell you right now, this is daunting. So the beautiful piece of history. The rum is beautiful, a lot of chocolate notes. When Don and I, we do tours to do tastings. We're going to do some in Berlin. We're going to do some in Amsterdam, hopefully in Germany soon. We take some of the Vulcan, that's 2 years, in our luggage. And some of it aged in oak barrels, some of it aged in chestnut barrels. So you guys will be able to taste it. And maybe one day, if our boss here agrees, we'll do some more tastings about this and about the Vulcan, so you can taste this one of a kind rum. There's one like this, there's only one still like this in the world, for rum for sure. For whiskey, there's a guy called Todd Leopold Distillers in Denver, Colorado, who about, I want to say 5 years ago, had Vendome make a beautiful one, actually. Actually, ours is more primitive. It's a 3-chamber still. He's a 4-chamber still. Vendome is a good coppersmith. And I went to see it because I was so excited. And when I told him we had one original from the 19th century, he was so excited. He said, I wish I'd known. Somebody said the black cask Fiji from some years ago was so smooth and wonderful. That's why my wife, you guys really listen to your wives, and that's wonderful. I do too. And I know Don does as well. And so and what we do with the blood cask every year, I like to work with some of the smoky, peated barrels or barrels that have been really toasted with a lot of fire and style. And so every year we do an edition, Barbados and blended with another origin in a black cask edition. So if you follow that, you'll get that. They're probably usually some are more smoother, some are more peated. So they go and they have different taste profiles. I'm glad your wife liked that one. And that's one very limited edition every year that you get to taste. Absolutely. I see you guys are really rum lovers, and I'm pleased to hear this. Thank you. And Don has never come with me to Fiji, but I'm taking you, Don. One day we're going to Fiji. You're gonna love the team there. You're gonna feel at home.
I'm looking forward to that. There was a question someone was asking about Budapest.
Actually, I don't know about that because I'm not taking care of that market. I can check.
That's Alexandra. But if you have a question, if somebody has an email, we will be able to.
Exactly.
Question. Absolutely.
I
Because
will be able to answer you per email, Alexandre.
Yeah, because what happens, guys, you know, Don and I, we make the products and we get questions about where it's marketed. And I'm ashamed to say, and I should know, but we can't do everything. And so we're not taking, thank God Isaac is here. And that's why he's here, making sure, you know, we know this. And that's for Germany, what's available, because we make the products and then the team, you know, get to decide together. And, you know, the Rum Depot has chosen some of these single casks. And thank you, by the way, for the trust. Thank you for the beautiful work done by the Rum, you know, the Rum Depot. You guys are for real. And thank you for the trust with these. And because without you, we have no clue about how and when it's marketed. We're there back at the distillery on the cellars making these rums. So, but if you want information about availability, Rum Depot has some chosen, I know, the vintages that we, you know, the single cask that we've tasted together. And thanks again for the trust. And also, obviously, you know, since we create different profiles, you know, in history, this is everything you tasted today. You're only going to taste it this year and never again. We never do twice the same single cask ever. And we've been doing it for 12 years and we've never done twice the same expression. So these are one of a kind.
And we don't have them in our warehouse anymore. So it's everything already at Rum Depot and our good clients, and that's it. And that's over. I will be waiting next year to see the new release.
You know, I always try to keep 12 bottles for here. and then we got friends visiting and they say, come on, we should taste it. And before I know it, I don't have it anymore. And if I want to taste it, I have to go out there and buy it on the internet, you know.
That's life.
It's true, you know. I always do. I can't help it. I love to share. You know, rum is for sharing and we drink it. You know, we just don't collect it. We drink it.
Yeah, correct.
You know, always say, some of the very old barrels, you know, sometimes I said with my wife, Debbie, I said, you know, maybe we should keep, you know, and we have like 10 left of this super unique. And she's like, how many barrels can you keep? You know, this is for sharing. And Debbie, that's what it's about.
Good wife.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for, you know, sharing the rum love. You know, thank you so much. Rum Depot, you guys do a beautiful job. I can't wait until we all get to see each other's in real life. I want to thank, of course, Isaac, also helping and being one of the Ferrand people. Thank you for all the great questions. It's been a great pleasure. Don, thank you for being available and being there. I love to do, as you know, I love to work with you and presentations together. So it's always a wonderful thing to do this. And thank you for the partnership. So thank you, everybody. And as I like to always say, you know, and I like to always say this, rum is too short, life is too short to drink bad rum. So keep to the good stuff. That's you know, we're you know, we don't know what's happening tomorrow. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Alexandre. So I hope you see us next time on a beach bar, on an island, in any places. The good point is I have Don here, so I can go with him to my shop on the other side. And we can create a glass.
Wonderful. Maybe I see you on the beach in Barbados next time in some nice shop.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alexandre. And I wanted to say that thank you very much to Don because it was not planned. And thanks that we have BCB coming on Monday, which make it available that you are here with us today. And it was really a pleasure to do that.
My idea is to work hard, but I also must have fun in Berlin. And this was a good start. Like Alexandre, I'm not educated about beer, but I will spend the next 2 days trying to do that. And then for BCB next week, I'm looking forward to it.
Perfect.
So
wonderful. Then Don, once you see a good one, and the team, I'm sure here can teach you a lot about beer, make sure you let me know and we'll do something. Thank you, Eba. Thank you, the team. much.
Thank you, Alexander.
Thank you, Alexander.
so much.
Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Bye bye now.
Bye bye.
Great pleasure. Thanks.
Bye bye. So, ja, ihr Lieben, wir verlassen euch jetzt auch. Also wie gesagt, ich muss mit Don jetzt noch mal nebenan gehen und ihm kurz den Shop zeigen. Maybe we have to taste one glass of rum. Yeah, the other side, so
At least one.
Yeah, just one. So, ja, danke, dass ihr dabei wart. Ich hoffe, es hat Spaß gemacht, ein bisschen was gelernt und ja, bleibt uns gewogen. Bis zum nächsten Mal. Macht's gut.
Bye.
Danke,
Bye, bye.
tschüss.
Tschüss.
Bis zum nächsten Mal.
Danke.
Tschüss.
Ciao.